this is my preferred method for doing zipper pockets now. So no matter what bag pattern you're doing, you can put your zipper pockets in this way. If your pattern has a size for the zipper box, I can't think of what it needs to be called, but basically the box that you sew around in order to push your facing through to create the space for the zipper. Now if it has that in it, but you don't want to do it that way, you want to do it with an accent piece, the best way to work out the size of your accent piece is whatever the size length of the zipper pocket is. So this box that you'd be sewing around, add on 1.5 inches, so that's 3/4 of an inch at this side and 3/4 of an inch at this side. So if this is 7 inches, this would be 8.5. If this is, I don't know, 9 inches, it will be 10.5. So as a rule, I tend to stick to about 7.5 inches. So my accent pieces are either 8.5 or 9, give or take. And the opening is usually always around about 1/2 inch. So again, add 1.5 inches on, 3/4 of an inch at the top, 3/4 of an inch at the bottom, and that will give you 2 inches. And then on this side, all I do is I mark 3/4 of an inch in from that edge, 3/4 of an inch in from this edge, 3/4 and 3/4, and I draw a line which gives me a box, and I very carefully cut that out either with rotary cutter, craft knife, very sharp scissors, anything that will give you a nice clean edge. So it's really quite handy if you're working with vinyl and you've got some scraps. You can always cut yourself out some of these accent pieces if you've got, you know, extra vinyl leather lying around. So my box is I think 7 inches because I had 8.5 by 2, so that's what I've made it. And then for your lining pieces, a fairly good rule of thumb is to either make them around about the same or just slightly longer than what your accent piece is. So if your accent piece is 8.5, maybe make them 9, etc, etc. And then the depth for me for this one is about 8 inches, because that, sorry, about 7 inches, because that makes around about a good size pocket for this bag. Obviously if you're making a bigger bag and you want a deeper pocket, you can measure it longer. You can always trim it back if you need to, if it is going to sort of come over the bottom of your bag. You can always trim it back once you've put it in. But because I've made this bag quite a few times, I know that sort of around about the 7 inch mark is quite good for this. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to find my centres. I'm just going to sort of nip them so I get sort of slight little crease, and I'm going to find the centres of my lining. So this lining has just been interfaced with medium weight interfacing. Again, that's on my website. It's the one that's on my website that I'm using. So I'm going to mark my centre, and then I'm going to mark about 2 inches down roughly, and then I'm going to use, just trying to decide which pen to use because I don't want it to show. I have got heat erasable pens, but I'm wanting to make sure that it's one that's not going to show once the bag's made. So this is the centre here. No, you can't see that. I'll have to use my blue one and then use the iron if you can still see it. So I'm just going to mark a little line along and then a line down that will mark my centre. And then I'm going to use a little bit of double-sided tape. So I'm putting it about the 1/4 inch mark from the edge. This will just kind of mean that it doesn't really get caught in any of my sewing. So I'm just going to take off one end for now. So I really need to get my nails redone because they're far too long for me. I can't work with them. And I'm just going to line up where that little pinch mark is for the halfway, and I'm going to line it up against this line and stick it down, and then take the tape off the other side and hope it comes off a little bit easier this time. Probably see my next video I put out, I'll probably have my nails completely redone and have them like really short because it's driving me nuts. Right, so that is all held in place with some double-sided tape, and we're just literally going to sew at 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Now you'll see that I've got my edges just square. I actually really quite like my accent pieces this way, but you can do them where they're rounded. I do have some you can buy templates so you could draw around and then cut out the middle. I just actually prefer mine square. They're a little bit easier to sew as well. One of the other things that you could do as well, and I have seen other people do this, well, two things actually. If you have woven labels, you could sort of slip one into sort of like this bit here, and that would look quite nice. One of the other things I've also seen people do, if they've got like an embossing tool or a you know, where you can like press into leather, if you've got like a maker's mark or something like that, you could actually sort of extend this down and have your maker's mark in this bit as well. But that is quite fancy for people who have those things. I don't. So well, I do have woven labels, but I don't actually know where they are at the minute. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to have my threads quite long. Four and a half stitch length, and I'm just going to take my time going all the way around this edge. So I've got to the corner, I pop my needle in the down position, and just before I turn it, I'm going to lift it ever so slightly, and this will help get a nice neat corner on my stitching. And the same, my needle is down, I'm going to lift it ever so slightly before I turn. little bit too far then, but never mind, it'll be okay. And then I'm not back stitching at the beginning or the front. I've literally got it so that my stitching has met my first stitch. And I'm going to pull these threads through. And then I can just tie them off so that they're nice and neat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut out this section here. So I like to use quite small scissors, even for the kind of long bit that I'm doing, because I just think I have a little bit more control. So I've cut along, and then I'm just going to cut into the corners. Obviously making sure that I'm not cutting into this piece. And then I'm just cutting it back about half. So that basically this won't be seen from the other side at all. So if you feel confident to use bigger scissors, you can. I just prefer to use these little embroidery type scissors because I just feel I've got a little bit more control over the blades not being quite as long. So this is where we are at the moment. So next step. So this is where I'm going to be using the number 3 zipper. So I'm going to pop the zipper pull on. And obviously this is a way longer zipper tape than what I need. It's just what I happened to have. So I wanted to use it up. But it does mean that I can keep the zipper tape well out of the way, not like before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the zipper tape on to the pocket pieces with the zipper tape facing up and the pocket pieces facing up. Now this pocket piece is going to be the one that is seen when you open the pocket. So you want to make sure that that one is right side facing up. And I'm just going to line that up with the edge of the lining piece, and I'm just going to baste it in place. Now I'm really sorry, but this is real life and I can hear one of my dogs whinging to be outside. I'm going to guess that it's Bruce because he is the whinger. So I'm just going to message one of the kids to let them out because they won't hear them at all. So, you know, keeping it real and all that. Yeah, so let's baste it in place and get back to sewing. So I'm on my longest stitch length. and then I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. So this side will want to be upside down, so that basically if you were to look into it, it would be the right way up. And you want right sides together, and you want the zipper tape to be facing up. Now, and it'll seem really, if this is the first time that you've done it, it'll feel really strange, like you're doing things like all the wrong way, but it is like what you need to do. So this is what you'll end up with, and what we need to do is we need to press this to open this up and it be nice and flat, and this also to be sitting nice and flat and neat as well. So that's been ironed. Just move my little mat out of the way, and I've actually put some double-sided tape onto the edge as well. So I'm going to take the first one off, the top one. That is the one that I like to put in place to start with. Sticking. What I kind of do is I kind of line the edges of the accent piece with the edges of the lining piece, which is why I've cut them around about the same size. So you might have to kind of maneuver it a little bit to start with. Then I'm going to take the bottom piece off. And just make sure that that's nice and flat and that the zipper tape is there or thereabouts in the middle. And again, I'm going to start kind of up here and sew around at 1/8 of an inch with a 4.5 ish seam length, seam stitch. So I'm just keeping hold of these threads because I want to keep them out of the way. And this is skipping the stitches. And I don't know why. Give me 2 seconds. Tell you what, I'm going to start from the other side and see if that works any better. Yeah, that's working this time. My Janome HD9 is extremely temperamental. Yeah, she likes to act up quite a bit of the time. So I've got till I'm about 1/8 of an inch past this edge here, needle down, I lift it ever so slightly, and then because this machine has this facility tend to use the button up, button down button rather than stitching, just so that I have that level of control. And then as I get to this end, sort of once I'm about an inch away, keep the needle down and push the pull into sort of this space. And can't tell you the amount of times that I have forgotten to do that. And then I'm just going to continue to sew all the way around until I get back to that stitching again. And I'm going to pull these threads through. So that there's no threads on the front and I've got no back stitching. And then I use a fairly thick needle and I put through, it's too thick, what I do is I put through one, I put through the far threads first and feed them back through. So do that far thread and the thread that's on the outside this way. And I'm just feeding them like behind, and then I do the two middle threads together. So that's why I use a slightly thicker needle, so that I can get both the threads through, especially with using a Tex 45, because it is a slightly thicker thread. So then that's all of the threads pulled through, and then I just separate them into twos and tie them off. What I can do now is trim back that zipper tape. Just use my lighter on both ends just to make sure that that's not going to unravel. And then you'll see one end is slightly longer than the other. That is absolutely like what will happen. You can cut one sort of around about an inch shorter than the other, but I prefer just to cut them both the same and then trim them up at the end, so then I know that they're going to match and they'll be fine. So I am going to sew down the edges here. I'm just pulling back this double-sided tape, trying to pull back the double-sided tape. Hopefully it won't stick, it'll be fine. And I'm going to sew it down at about 1/2 inch. I'm actually sewing it fairly close to the accent piece. And as I get to the bottom, I'm just going to turn up by about 1/2 inch. And sew over. You can, if you want to, when you've trimmed that up, you can turn each end up by 1/2 inch, you know, make yourself a seam, but this I've found is a much better way to do it. I think I saw it originally on one of Lauren's videos, so it's always how I've done it ever since I saw that. And then I'm just going to do the same in the other direction. And I always stitch back over the zipper tape, so I'll do double stitching over the zipper tape just to be on the safe side. And then I'm not going to trim back either of these because I don't need to, but I am just going to take off the corners at the bottom because it will just help it sit a little bit flatter. And then you turn the edges out and it creates this nice fold, which you can, if you want to, like run the iron over. So just fold them, keep them taut, and then you can press that in place if you want to. But obviously I'm going to turn this bag through this pocket, so that is why I want to leave that pocket open. If you weren't turning your bag through your pocket and you didn't want to leave it open, you would just stitch like all the way around and close that pocket up. But I'm leaving this pocket open because I'm going to turn this bag through here. So that's how you put a zipper pocket in with an accent piece. And like I say, hopefully if it doesn't have a pocket piece, hopefully you'll be able to work out your dimensions to create one on your own. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to see my next video when it's released. I'll see you next time.